Hey there, and welcome to the brand new episode of Film Geeks. I'm Michael DeGregorio from thecharlottegeeks.com. It's good to be back with you. Today, unfortunately, I'm by myself. Mr. Mackey is not with me, but he will be back next week, hopefully. This week, I'm going to be talking about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's a brilliant follow-up to 2011's reboot, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And these are being billed as the prequels, sort of, to the original Planet of the Apes. Although I'm not altogether sure that that is an accurate way to describe them now. I believe, sort of, they're almost like reigniting the series, like restarting over. I know the original, when Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out in 2011, there was a lot of talk about how there was mentions of Charlton Heston's spacecraft from Planet of the Apes in 1968, and that was kind of talked about in the background, and that the thought on the side of the fans was that eventually, you know, the world would evolve into, down the line, Charlton Heston would crash on the Earth and Planet of the Apes would take place, and this was kind of the story of how that happened. As we get into this film, I'm less and less convinced that that's the case. However, it is a brilliantly done standalone film, if that is what it is. If it's a new series, Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it is a great way to do the series. It is filled with emotion. It is a thoughtful film. It is a lot of the things that you do not normally associate with summer blockbusters. Generally, summer blockbusters are all explosions and action, and you're kind of just watching it on screen, and you're kind of a passive viewer. With this film, you find yourself getting very emotionally attached to the story, and that is an achievement on the behalf of a number of people, not least among them Andy Serkis, who plays Caesar in the motion capture. Andy Serkis has become kind of the go-to guy for motion capture, that technology and those kind of characters. He started with motion capture obviously he did Gollum in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. He's been on screen like as an actor. Obviously he was in 13 going on 30, which is the first time I really remember seeing him. But I know he had been on screen before that. He was also obviously in King Kong. He played King Kong too. He did the motion capture for Kong in Peter Jackson's 2005 film. But he has kind of become the guru for the motion capture, and rightfully so, because he brings so much emotion, so much gravitas to the part of Caesar, that it is just it is a masterclass in subtle acting on the part of not just him but the entire troupe around him. I don't know the names. I wish I did, but the actors who do the motion capture for his right hand man Koba and his wife and even his son Bright Eyes or Blue Eyes. I'm sorry. It's a brilliantly conceived story that they put into this film, and it takes place 10 years after the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And at the end of that film, if you stayed through the credits, you remember as the credits were rolling, you're kind of tracing the downfall of humanity with this virus, this almost like a super flu that was started, the simian flu they call it, and it kind of wiped out humanity. Now, an interesting side note, on the internet, if you go to if you go to a couple places, Badass Digest, .com, is the place I found this. It was commissioned by 20th Century Fox. They had several different filmmakers, 3 or 4 different filmmakers, do little short films that kind of traced the apocalypse of humanity. There was no apes in it. It wasn't tied to that, but it was tied into the promotional material for the film Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And it was kind of tracing the humanity's fall and how it got progressively worse as more and more people died, and finally you're living in the world of The Walking Dead without The Walking Dead. Humanity's gone. So when the film Dawn of the Planet of the Apes starts, humanity has basically been reduced to ashes. although unlike the original 1968 Planet of the Apes, it's not a nuclear war that has taken everybody out. It's kind of our own hubris and our own technology. So that's the other thing that makes me think this is not really a prequel to the original films. However, the film picks up 10 years after Rise. Humanity's, one of the little encapsulated encampments is in San Francisco, and Jason Clarke and Gary Oldman are the leaders. And they realize that in order to remain in any form civilized, they got to get the power back on, because they're running out of power, they're running out of gasoline to fuel the generators. And in order to do this, they have to turn on the hydroelectric dam. And in order to do that, guess who's built their entire encampment on this hydroelectric dam? Of course, Caesar and his intelligent apes. And they have built something of a pretty compact society. The film begins with a brilliant scene of the apes hunting deer, which is kind of almost it was kind of disturbing at first to watch them hunt them down and basically entrap them and kill them. And it's a very effective scene. And there was originally some complaints on the internet, as there always will be, you know how that is, that chimpanzees don't do that. And then watching a brilliant show on the Discovery Channel, I think it's the Discovery Channel, it might be Nat Geo Wild, called Kingdom of the Apes, which is kind of they're taking advantage a little bit, I think, of the hype around the film, and kind of just doing a documentary thing about actual apes. And it's funny to see that they actually do that. They do hunt. They do eat meat. It's an interesting thing to see. So of course these two camps come into conflict, and Jason Clarke's human character and Caesar's ape character are attempting to hold the peace. Like they both crave to get along, because they've seen so much destruction, so much war, so much, because after the civilization fell apart, humans went through almost a civil war, and where they basically killed each other. So now they're both very, very much craving to get along, and they're trying to remain committed to a peace. And it's one of those rare films. It's funny because while you're watching it, it's a summer blockbuster, and it has all the trappings of a summer blockbuster. But as you're sitting there watching it, you are hoping against hope that hostilities won't happen. You're sitting there and you're like, oh God, I hope they can work this out. And when I realized that, I realized, oh, this is a really good film. Director Matt Reeves, who had done Cloverfield, and he did the American version of Let the Right One In, which was it's a great vampires film if you've never seen that. Both the Swedish version, original Swedish version, and the American version are both brilliant films. He brings a lot of subtle emotion to this film. The action scenes are astonishing. They are brutal, and they're sharp and fast. And when they do happen, there is a sense of, oh, please, please, please don't let this get out of hand. Which, like I said, is a rare thing in a summer blockbuster film. Most films like this, you're sitting there just kind of passively watching the destruction, and you're never really invested in the characters. In this film, at least I was, and most of the people that were in the theater when I saw it, and it's been out for a couple of weeks, and the people who have come out of it have all unanimously said that they just loved the film. I've never talked to anybody who didn't like it. Let's put it that way. I'm sure there are people out there, but I work in a theater, and I come into contact with a lot of people who have come out of the film, and this film dominated the box office for 2 weeks. And the people that come out of it were unanimously, they liked it. They enjoyed the film. So that is something to be said in and of itself, that you're living in a world where a summer blockbuster has unanimous approval, because there's so many films that do great business. They make millions of dollars, but people don't really like them. One that comes to mind is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which came out in May. The movie made millions and millions and millions of dollars, although considerably less than the first one. So much so that Sony has kind of put plans that they had for Sinister Six and the spin-off movies. They put them on hold now because the film kind of just stagnated. It didn't build. They're always looking to build. These movies are the franchises are supposed to build and grow. The second one kind of just went a little less than the first one, and unanimously people coming out, there are a few people, our director is among them, and fair enough, I do know people who really liked the film, but 80% of the people didn't like it. It's just like, it's all right, I paid my money, I'll probably watch it on DVD, but there's no real attachment to it. These days, people tend to save their attachments for things for home video, or not home video, I'm sorry, for television series, which is fair enough. This is a golden age of drama on television, and it seems like people get really rabid and fanatical about their shows that they watch, that they invest time in. It isn't so much with movies anymore. So to have people come out and to be really, really invested in the film, like they have been in the Planet of the Apes movie, is kind of a remarkable thing. And it is a really well done movie. It's not overly action-packed. There's not an explosion every 10 minutes. It definitely is a story that builds, and it's a lot of tension. In fact, it's one of the tensest times I've had in a theater this year. It's very stressful. So definitely, if you have not seen it yet, do by all means see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes on the big screen. It is not necessary to see it in 3D. It was not filmed in 3D. It was post-converted, and a lot of the film takes place at night or in the dark and kind of dingy woods and in a forest. So if you have not seen it already, go see it in 2D, because the 3D just makes everything a little more murky. It's not necessary. But see it on the biggest screen you can. You'll be able to enjoy it at home, absolutely, but this is a film that I believe needs to be seen in a theater just to get that full experience. And personally myself, I give it a full 10 out of 10. So that is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, 10 out of 10. And we'll be right back.
Are you looking for a hot new ride? Come on down to Scott Clark Toyota, where you can find hundreds of new vehicles, new and used at that. They got brand new Corollas, Siennas, and Tundras in stock. You can find them at 13,000 East Independence Boulevard. You can also call them at 704-535-1972 and find them on the web at scottclarktoyota.com. Tell them Max from FilmGeeks sent you.
Okay, next I want to talk to you about a film that you may have missed, but I'm almost positive if you're a genre fan, you have heard of. It's called Snowpiercer. It is the American debut by director Joon-ho Bong, who made 2006's The Host. Not the Stephanie Meyer movie, but the original North Korean, or South Korean film, rather, not North Korean. They're not really big on these kind of movies. The South Korean film, The Host, which was a great monster movie. If you haven't seen that yet, I suggest you go back and check it out. This is his American, or not American, but his English language debut. It actually came out in Europe, and in most places the rest of the world, it came out last year. And it was a massive worldwide success, and it's finally opened here in the United States. It's playing in select theaters, and it's playing on video on demand, and it's on iTunes. It is a film that it is a brilliantly constructed science fiction movie. Because the idea is, in the near future, global warming has gotten out of control. So the world bands together to put this super chemical into the air, which is supposed to fix the ozone layer and heal the planet, so to speak. However, it doesn't work, and it freezes the planet instantaneously, thereby killing all life on the planet except people who happen to be in this super train called the Snowpiercer. The creator of this train is Ed Harris, and apparently he could see the problems with their solution right before they put them into place and the world froze. So he constructed this super train, and now the only remnants of humanity live on this train, and it is a long train. You're never sure how long it is exactly, 10 miles or 6 miles or however long it is, but it's 1,000 cars, and in each car is a microcosm of society. And of course, you start at the front of the train, which is where all the elite live, including Ed Harris. He's at the very front in the engine. But at the very back of the train is the low class, the dregs of humanity. And that's where we find our hero, Captain America himself, Chris Evans. And he plays a character who is kind of leading a revolution to climb from train car to train car to take over and kind of, it's a class struggle is what it is. And it's a class struggle in this microcosm of this train, because they have nothing to eat, they have nothing to drink, they can't bathe, they can't sleep, they're all in tight cattle cars. And meanwhile, the rich are still eating cattle and, you know, eating steaks and chickens, because they have all different train cars are, you know, they grow food, they have animal cars where they raise animals, there's cars where the rich have dining cars, and it's like it's a nightclub. I mean, there's everything you can imagine in the world is on this train. So as they move from car to car, it becomes like a different kind of science fiction movie, and it's fascinatingly brilliant to watch. It is an amazing film. It's fast-paced, and it's filled with big ideas. It's not a film that is just one basic idea that you have to just go with, because things keep constantly changing. You learn more and more about the rebellion, and you learn more and more about Chris Evans' character as the story progresses, and you realize that he may not be as great a guy as you think he is at the beginning of the film. However, what he stands for could still be the right thing to stand for. So you're left with that, I don't know if I back this guy or if I don't, but definitely their idea of the revolution is a good one. And it's just, the imagery in it is amazing, the fights in it are amazing, there are several sequences that are just jaw-dropping. One sequence with swords and hatchets and knives between the revolutionaries and the guard, so to speak, on this train, that takes place out in the open, or like out in the daylight of this train car, and then the train goes into a 12-mile tunnel, because the train just circulates the world continuously all the time on the tracks. It just never stops. It's a perpetual motion engine. It never slows down. It never stops, and they never have to leave it. It's a sealed environment. So they go through this mountain where there's like a tunnel, and so all of the guards have night vision goggles on. So all of a sudden, it's turned to where the good guys can't see anything, and the bad guys just start taking them apart. And it's just one of those sequences that I know directors down the line are going to be copying. It always happens with these kinds of movies. The guys, they copied Old Boy, some of the director's stuff in that, they're going to copy this. It's a brilliantly structured film. So Snowpiercer, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, either in the theater, which is the best way to see it, or on video on demand, and it'll be on DVD and Blu-ray shortly, so definitely check it out. It is a masterpiece of science fiction. Well, that just about does it for this week's Film Geeks. Again, thank you for being with us. If there's anything you would like to see, if there's anything you'd like us to talk about that we haven't talked about, or if you have an opinion that differs from mine, how dare you? By all means, let us know. We're on Facebook, Film Geeks. Find us FilmGeeks384 on Facebook. We're on Twitter at FilmGeeks384, or go to the website. You'll find it in the what's that area called, Todd? Description. I can never think of all the words I'm supposed to know.
Subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Come to YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and all of our new episodes that come out weekly usually. That's the plan. Every week we plan to come out at roughly the same time. You'll be the first one to know about it. And of course, on Facebook, we always hit everybody up. Subscribe on Facebook, or not subscribe, but we are friends on Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us on Twitter at FilmGeeks384. And as always, let us know what you think. And as always, we'd like to say one special thank you to Scott Clark Toyota, as always, for letting us shoot in their wonderful, state-of-the-art, futuristic even, studios, And if anything, if you need a car, if you need a vehicle, if you need to uptrade or trade up, see how I did that Yoda thing? By all means, give Scott Clark a call. And otherwise, we'll see you next time right here on Film Geeks. The largest selection of Siennas, Corollas, and Tundras located below in the description. Let me just keep going. Can't you just let it run and let me just...
Yeah, sure. Over hundreds of vehicles as well. You can find them at 13,000 East Mother...